Facing lawsuits, Archdiocese of Washington challenges law empowering abuse survivors.
Oy, oy, oy. This literally church going, hey, guess what? Look at, all those kids we diddled? All those kids we diddled? We don't want them talking about it. We don't want them being able to seek legal recompense.
So Maryland eliminated the statute of limitations for survivors of child sexual abuse. And the archdiocese, one of the archdioceses that's affected by this, is arguing in court that it's an illegal law.
Why would you even try to defend that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why would you
Okay, if you are supporting an organization that goes to court to say, hey, people who we sexually abused when they were children, if it happened long enough ago, they shouldn't be able to get compensation for that. That's the bad guy.
Yeah.
How are they not the bad guy? Like, and it's not even a question of like if they sexually abuse these kids. It's like this is the result of one of those reports that came out that found hundreds of kids were abused by dozens of priests since however long ago. And the church is like, no, that happened a long time ago. So like, yeah, no, you shouldn't be able to get compensation for it now because it was a long time ago. Like, never mind that we're supposed to be like representatives of God here on Earth.
It baffles my mind because let's say, for instance, a lot of times the statute of limitations is like 7 years, right? 7 years past the point, then you do thing. Think about how many priests have done something to a kid who was under 7, or not under 7. I mean, sometimes under 7, but somebody who's
under 11.
Under 11. Somebody who's under 11. So somebody who would live their entire childhood with the statute of limitations passing them by the time they became an adult. So by the time they have the ability to even begin the process of seeking legal recompense outside of their parents, who are probably members of that church and probably don't want to seek anything legal in the first place because there's a whole culture of shame around that too. Mm-hmm. Those kids are now, they're locked. They would be completely locked. They'd go, oh, I'm an adult now. And there's nothing, like, I'm in the part of my life where I should be able to do something about this, and now I suddenly can't.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where, like, anytime you bring up priest sexual abuse, the people who defend the church will be like, oh, well, sexual abuse happens in schools, too, and it happens in these other places where you entrust your children.
Did exactly that.
But here's the thing, like, when it's caught in school, like, you don't have school boards suing to say, hey, we need to protect our teachers from
rape allegations.
We need to protect our teachers from the legal ramifications of the fact that they raped kids. Like, no, you don't have that. You do have that with the church. That's why the church fucking sucks. Because like when a teacher is found doing stuff like this, the teacher's reported, sent to prison, and the family gets compensation. When the church does it, the priest is moved to somewhere that's outside of their jurisdiction, and then they fight tooth and nail against having to give any sort of legal compensation.
Yeah, usually they're sent to like Chile or something like that.
Yeah. So the Archdiocese of Baltimore declared bankruptcy, which allowed certain parts of the church to continue functioning while limiting the damages the Archdiocese would inevitably face. There's kind of another issue, is that the way the Catholic Church is set up in these archdioceses or whatever, where it's like, oh, well, yeah, sure, the Archdiocese of Baltimore fucked a bunch of kids, but like, you can't hold the church itself responsible. You have to hold that specific archdiocese responsible. Never mind that they pay their membership dues or whatever it is to like be officially part of the Catholic Church. You can't sue the Catholic Church itself.
It's the Chick-fil-A thing all over again. We're like, whatever your stance is on buying, Chick-fil-A, I don't care what it is one way or another. But when
my stance is don't buy it.
When somebody levies the criticism against Chick-fil-A that like, hey, they've donated to organizations that would prevent trans and gay people from being let into a homeless shelter, that's stuff that they, allowed in the past. And then your criticism of that is, okay, but they're franchised, so not all franchises did that. Like, no, if you buy a franchise, you are considered representative of that brand, no matter if it's a McDonald's or Burger King or what have you. So regardless of what your stance is on buying the food, you still have to accept that criticism is salient, no matter which Chick-fil-A bought it. It doesn't matter. Like, you have to address that criticism one way or another.
Yeah. On a similar note, since we're approaching the holiday season, don't put money in the Salvation Army jars. They're an LGBTQ hate group. Don't do it. Give money to Project Share instead by going to share.vicerhino.com, which should work theoretically. Ooh, also, I just set up an email address and I had to pay $20 for this, so you better make it worth it. If you see some news that you want us to cover on tweets, send it to news@vicerhino.com. So send me links there, because sometimes it's hard for me to find news stories. So yeah, your help is appreciated. News@vicerhino.com.
There you go.
Oh shit!
just clicked right away from it.
I went for the mouse and my finger hit the Just Us button. It's the romantic scene of just you and me.
Get out of my house.
Okay, so the Archdiocese of Washington, which is also affected by the changes, is arguing in court in 2 separate cases that the new law violates the Maryland Constitution. They're fighting against having to compensate the victims of child sex abuse. Again, can't reiterate that enough. I mean, I can, because YouTube is going to demonetize this for sure if I keep doing it, but I don't fucking care. I feel like the victims of child sex abuse deserve more money than I do from this video being monetized. So, yeah,
it's just
I'm willing to lose monetization to say they deserve some compensation.
It's a very weird thing to try to defend, right? So the statement, if you don't want to sound like a predator, don't say things that make you sound like a predator. This is that kind of thing. If you don't want to sound like you're a rapist organization that rapes kids, then don't try to do things that sound like you're a rapist organization looking for better legal defenses for raping kids. Maybe don't do that. Maybe that would help your image overall. I don't know. Maybe I could be y'all's PR team by just dissolving the entire infrastructure.
Yeah. So Adam Broughton says, sadly, a close family member stands on kettles for the Salvation Army every year and helps count the proceeds. I mean, they do some good. In a time in my life when I was in need, the Salvation Army did help me out with some bills at one point. But I don't give them money because they're not accountable to where the money goes, because they're a religious organization. They can send it wherever the fuck they want, and they don't need to tell anyone. And they're one of these organizations that has consistently been like, oh yeah, no, we promise we'll stop giving to LGBTQ hate groups, and then they're caught giving to LGBTQ hate groups a little while later. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yup.
The law in Maryland used to be that no survivor of child sexual abuse could sue beyond the age of 38. So if you passed the age of 38 and you hadn't sued yet, you were out of luck. And also defendants who didn't commit crimes, like the Catholic Church itself, like it said, there's the Catholic Church, and then there's all these archdioceses. So the church itself was not considered to be liable, whereas the archdiocese would. So you couldn't sue the church, you could only sue the archdiocese. So then when an archdiocese did something like, I don't know, declare bankruptcy, like the Baltimore one did, you couldn't sue them anymore. Or there was a very limited time period where you could sue in order to try and be included in the bankruptcy settlement. So the newer law lifted both of those restrictions. So now you can sue the Catholic Church itself if the archdiocese declares bankruptcy. Good. And if you're older than 38, you can still sue. Also good.
Yep.
Those are both good things, and the church is fighting against them.
Because they do not want people having the power to sue them. They are terrified of people having that kind of ability, because they know for a fact when people have that kind of ability, it will be used against them and it will be used to drain their pocketbooks. That's ultimately what it comes down to. It's not about saving face for the organization, because if it was about saving face, they wouldn't be fighting about it in the first place. They would just be like, we accept the judgment for the bad things the church has done. God will purge us or something.
Yeah.
It's about saving
Like,
their coffers.
If you are a representative of God on earth, then you should want to purge your organization of child predators. I don't see why that's controversial.
If everyone in the organization is some form of child predator, they have no reason to purge.
And then I would call into question whether or not they're an organization that represents God.
I wouldn't, because I think that the God they serve is an asshole, but that's just me.
Yeah, true. Fair point.
Be like, yeah, no, you're definitely representing God. Congratulations.
Yeah. So this is coming in the wake of the another one of these reports that found over 600 children, with emphasis, but the number is likely far higher, were abused by 156 predators working with the Catholic Church since the 1940s. So, like, every time one of these reports is released, it's always terrible. Like, it's always like, here's the thought. If you are part of an organization that has a list of people that you know are child predators, and you're waiting for the authorities to say, hey, could you give us... Because that's the way a lot of these reports were compiled, was the authorities just went to the church and said, hey, can you please hand over your list of known child predators? And they'd be like, sure, here you go, here's the list. That's how a lot of the information from these reports came about. And like, when you hear that the Catholic Church was cooperating, that's what they mean by that. That means that they had the list already, and they were like, here you go. Here's our list of people that we know are fucking kids. It's like, if you have that list, don't wait for the authorities to come to you. Just fucking hand it over.
But again, it is because it is about finances, ultimately. If they hand the list there, they have to start draining their coffers immediately in legal fees and shit like that. That is the reason they're doing that. Doesn't make it better. It makes it infinitely worse. So
I'm so, like, kind of drunk angry. Like, I'm not drunk, but I'm a little bit slurring my speech. I just missed my mouth with the beer. I'm, like, covered in beer right now.
I thought that was a fantasy of yours, just being covered in beer.
You can't see it on camera, but, like, I just looked down. There's just, like, foam all over me from this last thing, because I missed my mouth with that last sip.
I'm sorry, Rhino.
The Catholic Church is driving me to drink.
I'll make sure not to miss your mouth.
Ooh. Onlyfans.com/Vice Rhino and Suris.
The VR, do you need a sippy cup? We get you a sippy cup for beer?
Actually, I used to work at a winery that sold sippy cups for wine. Not even kidding.
Okay, then.
And like all of the marketing language that was on those displays made it sound like you were supposed to drive with this cup. But they were very careful to separate that from, like, actually, like, having alcohol in the container. Like, you could put anything in it, like juice, while you're driving, but also it's a wine glass.
You could use it to drink soda, but we all know you're using it for champagne.
Yeah. It was actually so the company, like the winery that I worked for at the time, they got their start making Baby Duck, not champagne, the sparkling wine or whatever, which older people will probably recognize as the cheap champagne stuff, the cheap champagne-like thing that you would buy just to get drunk, but it's actually terrible.
The thing that you have to mix with 1 billion fruit juices to get it palatable?
Yeah. And I was actually at their 50th anniversary party. I worked their 50th anniversary party, and they had someone in a Baby Duck mascot costume thing wandering around. It was actually kind of fun.
Huh.
That was one of the jobs that I actually enjoyed.
Okay. Fair enough. I cannot... Look... If you enjoyed walking around in Baby Duck cosplay there, I'm not going to kink shame.
No, I wasn't the one in the Baby Duck costume.
Why not?
Because they didn't ask me.
Oh, okay.
You can bet your ass I would have said yes if they'd asked me. Like,
That's
hey, do you want to wear a baby duck costume and just walk around waving at people? Like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'd do that. Pretend like I'm being sociable while not having my face visible, and I can be like scowling at people the entire time. Absolutely, I'll fucking do that.
God, that reminds me of the catharsis of being a clerk at a gas station, and anytime a customer pissed me off, I just flicked them off onto the counter and just like, I have power.
So I was still working at the restaurant when the pandemic started, and so when we all had masks, the mask was one of my favorite things as a server because I could mouth "fuck off" every time somebody did something stupid, and they would never know. Because as long as I don't let my eyes reflect it, you're like, "Oh, fuck off. You're fucking kidding me. Really? Fuck off." But they can't see my mouth, so whatever.
Jesus.
It was great. I loved it. I'm such an angry person sometimes.
The more drunk Rhino gets, the more we're like, oh, the name actually is descriptive of something. He has a vice, and his vice is rage.
It wasn't just that it happened to be an anagram for vice or for Eric Hovind. Which, so it was in a private chat that I don't necessarily have permission to divulge the specifics of, but I will say I saw Eric Hovind's signature today.
Okay.
And just the way he writes his name, his last name looked like horny. And then my mind, like the way he wrote his first name, it was not legible. It didn't really look like it on retro, like thinking back on it, but like because I read his last name as horny first, my mind backfilled his first name as very. So he signed his name Very Horny.
Very horny.
So, and that tracks. Anyway, yeah, that's basically all I want to get out here. If you still support the Catholic Church, you are supporting a known criminal organization that protects pedophiles. That's all there is to it. But Suris.
Yeah?
Suris, I am so fucking happy that I have your face on camera for this next headline.
Oh dear. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you. I'm not saying that part. And Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.